Gridiron Grinder! Hut hut hike!
Alrighty, it's Gridiron Grinder time. I'm Ryan. With me, as always, my buddy James. Just a couple of dudes hanging out, talking about what's going on in the NFL each week. This is episode 146 of Gridiron Grinder. We had last week off for some unforeseen circumstances, but we're back in the saddle. And for tonight, we're going to kick things off with Name That Stadium like we always do. Then we're going to cover the news from this past week and a half ish, whatever it's been. After that, we're going to jump in and do our super early 2023 team record predictions, which will put on our playoff predictions as well. Ridiculously early, but we like doing it. And then last but not least, we'll close it off with our question of the week. And so, with all that being said, how's it going tonight, James?
It's going good. How's it going with you?
It's going good, man. It's going good. It's good to be back, and we're getting it in early this week. And so, yeah, fun stuff. I'm ready to talk about some football, man.
Yeah, definitely. Me too. It's been a while.
All right, well, hey, why don't you take that ball and run with it? Do name that stadium for us, man.
All right. So this is the section of the show. As you can see, I travel around to various stadiums that host NFL games, and if you the first person to guess it right, we'll give you an extra special shout out coming soon, and we'll bookmark it. You can rewind it and play it over and over again. Show all your friends. You guess, you get it wrong. We might poke fun at you a little bit, but it's we enjoy the participation. But from last time or the last show, we did have a taker. It was L.A. Dodger who guessed correctly that I was at State Farm Stadium in Arizona. My kind of reason why I picked that one, the best I can remember, is it happened. It was like right before that day was when Hopkins was released by the Cardinals. So I kind of took that because that was like the big news of the month for the NFL. Seriously.
Oh yeah, yeah, it was fitting. Yeah, we're in that time of year where any given week can just be kind of dry. So, yeah, that was some big news, and it's great to have a taker, which I believe LA Dodger is a multiple time winner now, which is, good having someone come back and, kick that tire once again. So thanks for playing, man.
Yeah, definitely.
All right, cool. Well, let's move it on over. We'll do our recap of the past week. And so, James, I didn't have, honestly, a ton in the news from this past week and a half or so. It seemed like a lot of puff pieces, but I'll give you the things that I did pick up on. One of them, which I think was just today or earlier in the week, it looks like the Vikings are getting calls about their defensive end slash edge guy, Daniel Hunter. So I don't know. Maybe he's on the trade block. Maybe he's on his way out of Minnesota. He's kind of been a stalwart for them for a long time. So it'd be sort of strange to see him switching places. But, they're trying to revamp that defense. And I think that when you look at how good they were offensively last year, the defense was lagging, kind of drug them down a little bit. Uh, this offseason, I'm not sure, that all their changes make them better, to be honest. They pretty much gutted the secondary. They switched up some stuff at linebacker. So I don't know. And, Zadarius Smith, they traded him. I mean, it's just, it's almost like they're doing a mini rebuild on the defensive side of the ball, which I think is dangerous when you're a playoff team. I don't know. A lot of change for them. So,
Yeah, but kind of if you look at them being a playoff team last year, there's
fluky.
two. It was really fluky, but also like with how Dalvin Cook was playing, like they're all everyone's saying, oh well, he's past his prime, this and that. But when you actually break down the film, the question I have is, what the fuck is he supposed to do? Is this if as soon as he gets the ball, the tackler's right there?
Yeah, they're on them. And we've known that offensive line has been piss poor for a long time. It's kind of gotten better, but it's still not like a really good offensive line. And so I agree. And then I have heard some rumors too about him potentially being on the trade block and them going to Madison as their lead guy, which I like Madison a lot. And I've been interested to see what he could do with the full workload. We've seen him step in when Cook is out, and he's played really well, but it's for a game here, a game there, whatever. Could he do that week in, week out for a full season? I don't know, but I like what I've seen out of him, and he's certainly the cheaper of the two options, I guess, and so maybe that
Yeah.
helps them with whatever they got to do for Justin Jefferson and making all that stuff work, man.
Yeah, exactly. I'm kind of surprised, but I mean, he's about to be due a big contract, so it kind of makes sense that they're probably not planning on giving him a contract with his injury issues and Madison stepping in and doing a sufficient job. So
Yeah, yeah, and I mean running backs now, kind of a dime a dozen, man. You can find the special guys out there, but most of the time you can get pretty similar production from these like mid and late round picks, and it just
Mhm.
makes it tough to find that right kind of value. All right, so in other news, Leonard Floyd, the former Los Angeles Ram and former Chicago Bear defensive end slash edge guy, I think he was technically a linebacker for the Rams, but a
Mhm.
defensive end back with the Bears. He has signed a 1 year deal with the Buffalo Bills. I like that signing. Reunites him with Von Miller. But, it's just more about them making sure they've got the right depth in their front seven. And uh, I don't know what the money was. I'm guessing it's not a ton, but the article I saw didn't call it out. So,
Yeah, I haven't. I looked for it and I didn't find any specifics on the deal. It was just that he signed. That's all I could find.
okay. But one I do have the specifics on is Ed Oliver, the defensive tackle for the Buffalo Bills. He signed a 4 year extension for 68 million with 45 of it guaranteed, which is nice for him. He was a first round pick. I think he's kind of like every year people have maybe wondered if he was like living up to the expectations. But, I think this deal shows they like what he's done. They think he's a valuable member of that defensive line, and he's going to be sticking around. I've always liked him, and it's tough. I mean, we've talked about those interior defensive linemen. It's really difficult to get a good gauge on really how well they perform because there's not a lot of stat categories for them. And
Hmm.
it's very hard for those guys in the middle to get the big sack numbers like the defensive ends and the linebackers. And so, you can be a disruptor, but it's like rare that you're going to have an Aaron Donald kind of guy playing in the middle of the line like that. And so, I like it, Oliver. I'm glad they're hanging on to him.
Yeah, I like that too for him. I just I kind of I kind of missed that one this week though.
That's okay. Yeah, I think, honestly, this is like one of those sort of like dry periods where there's not been much. And like the other one I saw, which is, we're getting kind of into like puff piece because there's nothing significant, but I saw DeAndre Hopkins had a visit with Tennessee, and
Hmm.
so that's starting to move. But like aside from that, James, all I got is the Madden 24 hype train is rolling. Apparently, Josh Allen's going to be on the cover. The game is going to be more real than ever. Which I mean, could it go backwards? I don't know. Like, yeah, they're only going to make it better, right? So,
Yeah,
um,
exactly. It's not going to go backwards.
yeah. Oh no, we're going to go retro. We're going to go 2D and pixels, and it's going to be awesome. So no, I mean, hey, I like Madden. I've not been as crazy about the recent games, but it is nice. My son got into the last one, which was fun playing with him, and maybe that'll kind of like get me to get Madden 24 and keep it going. But I like the older ones for the gameplay and the way that you could build the teams and train your players and all that. And they've kind of like, I don't know if I would say simplified it, but they've changed it in a way that to me it's just not as spicy as it used to be.
Yeah, I haven't played Madden in forever. As you know, I moved recently, and I'm haven't even been able to unpack my PlayStation. It's somewhere. I know it got packed. I just haven't found it yet.
You're just out of that phase. But you're playing other games. You're playing Switch and stuff. So,
Yeah.
you know. just a different flavor. All right, well, hey, that's literally all I got, man, for the news. I thought there would have been way more, but like pretty much everything I read was, oh, this guy thinks he's going to get a contract, and this guy thinks he's going to be ready for week one, and like stuff like that. It's hard to report on because it's all just like, oh, I feel this way and I think this way, and it's like, man, I need like some concrete freaking facts, man.
Yeah, so I was looking as like so one article I came across, and I'm trying to figure out who they're talking about. Apparently, Baltimore signed another former first round. Um, it's Treadwell,
Oh, Laquan Treadwell, a
Laquan
wide
Treadwell.
receiver.
Yeah, Baltimore signed him.
Okay. Yeah,
Um,
I think I want to say they signed him once before, and it's just, he's bounced around now a number of times. But yeah, he was like super hyped up going into his draft, and it just never clicked in the NFL for him, man.
yeah, the Falcons, which I missed this, which might have changed a little bit of my picks. Their kick returner, punt returner, Avery Williams
Yeah.
tore his ACL.
Oh shit, I didn't see that. Damn.
Appar- uh, I didn't see. I don't. I'm not seeing. Uh, so it was today he tore his ACL
Okay.
during OTAs. Then there was. You heard about Isaiah Rodgers, right?
No, what happened there?
So apparently, so it's allegedly Isaiah Rodgers. It has not been confirmed that it is him that the NFL is investigating, although he seemed to acknowledge it on his
Oh,
social media. He
yeah.
apparently placed hundreds of bets at the team facility, including bets on the Colts.
Yeah, you can't do that.
So the NFL is investigating him, his gambling uh, proclivities, shall we say.
Hey, somebody other than a lion has to be guilty, James.
Yeah, and I don't remember touching on this last time. Did we talk about the new fair catch rule last time? Because it happened on like,
Oh, I don't think we did. No.
so the NFL apparently, and it's so fucked up. Like within weeks, they switched like 5 or 6 teams to voting yes for this rule, and every one of all the players that are involved on it in it and like special teams, all the special team coaches that were advisors, like one from each team, one for special teams coach, one special teams player everyone was like, it was unanimously against it, where they think that it'll actually make the kickoff more dangerous, because instead of kicking it deep for a fair catch, or where they could fair catch it inside. The rule is now, if they fair catch it inside the 25-yard line, it's considered a touchback, and the ball goes on the 25-yard line.
Okay, yeah, because they're kicking it to the ceiling, trying to pin them deep, and
Yeah,
so they're trying to prevent that from happening. Is what?
yeah. And then, so with the kickoffs, what a lot of people are saying is going to happen is it's going to be kind of like a squib kick,
Yeah,
where they can't
they can't fair catch it.
So it's rolling on the ground past the 25-yard line, and into the kick return or whatever, and which is actually going to make it more dangerous of a play than a safer play.
Okay. Well, yeah, yeah, 'cause I was just thinking if you squib it and it doesn't bounce right, it goes out of bounds, and then you get the penalty. But these kickers, they're gonna know how to squib it and do it. And so
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, they're just gonna find a different way, and maybe it doesn't work, and who knows. But yeah, it's tough. It's like teams want to have special teams, but it's like the league is kind of saying, it's too dangerous. We're trying to phase it out somehow, but doing it in such like a slow sort of way that it's just like we're all suffering like a painful death of losing our special teams.
Yeah, exactly. And it's kind of annoying, but
Yeah, I like it, man. I miss the frickin' Dante Hall, what's his face, from the Bears, like I miss that stuff, man. Like
Hmm.
you just see those guys rip one off, and it's just so rare. Devin Hester, man, I
Yeah,
must be
Hester.
tired. uh, but it's just different. It's just changing, man. You know.
Yeah, and the last thing, and the only reason I'm touching on it is because he's an ex-Lion.
Okay.
DeAndre Swift apparently is claiming that he played all of 2022 with a high ankle sprain and a separated shoulder.
I don't know what to think about that guy, James.
Yeah, I like the article I read about it says the running back missed 4 games due to injuries, but it wasn't apparent prior to his comments that he had been battling such serious injuries.
Yeah. Yeah. I
It's like,
mean, so maybe that Deuce Staley thing was legit. You know, it like lit a fire under him to play even though he was hurting. I don't know.
yeah.
I don't know. It's tough to trust anything that comes out of that guy's mouth. But oh, and we didn't talk about this before. The frickin' Le'Veon Bell shit, where he came out and said he was smoking weed before NFL games, man.
Oh, I missed that. But
Dude,
who was
yeah,
the other one that did that? Ricky Williams. Ricky Williams retired from the NFL so he could smoke weed.
yeah. And so I don't know if Ricky Williams ever did he admit to doing it before games, or he just admitted that he wanted to. That's why he was retiring. And
I thought he admitted to doing it before games.
okay, yeah, that's not good. And the Le'Veon Bell one, that's he was like talking about how he wish it would have been different with Pittsburgh and the way it ended. And it's like, well, and then he like says that about freaking smoking weed before games. It's like, dude, and I think he even said he was hoping he could still make a comeback. And it's like, well, you're definitely not now, like, and I mean, he hasn't played in forever anyhow, but still, it's just like, wow, man, that's just so bad, dude. It's so
So,
bad.
so recently, like I just did the quick Google search for it, and he did smoke. Ricky Williams said he smoked weed
Okay.
before before every game, but he's also
Jeez.
said recently
Before every game.
in December he says at least 80% of NFL players smoke weed.
Yeah, I've heard stuff like that before. Yeah. And they just know, you chill out when it's drug test time and whatever. And I don't know. You would think that, of course, now with it being legal in so many states, I don't know how, like I think it's still probably prohibited in the NFL or whatever, but um, it's just, yeah, I've heard stuff like that. Yeah.
Yeah, I was glancing, but yeah, but it says uh, what he said was he smoked weed before games. This is back in 2013. He smoked weed before games to deal with his social anxiety disorder, and it was unlikely he could have had an NFL career without it.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, he had a pretty great career until it just seemed like it changed overnight for him. And I don't know. I always thought maybe that had something to do with it, but it sounds like that was always going on in the background. Maybe he just like, I don't know, had his like come to Jesus or something and things changed for him.
Yeah, apparently he didn't really appreciate weed until his senior year in college.
Oh, jeez. All right, so that's it news-wise.
Yeah, that was about it.
Okay, well, let's shift it over, James, and let's do our super early 2023 NFL team record predictions. And so, I think in past years we've kind of gone through by division, and once we get through, we do a little playoff stuff, and then we'll just kind of like tie that into our question of the week, which will be who do we think is going to win the Super Bowl? And, does that all make sense to you?
Makes sense to me.
All right, let me pull up my spreadsheet and we will start with the AFC East. And so Why don't you give me your record predictions here first, James, and then I'll give you mine.
All right. So I'm going to preface this on this did not go exactly like I thought it would in the AFC East.
Sure.
I'm going to start at the bottom.
Oh, yeah,
I
and
have
do you want to like I guess explain your methodology first before we get too far into it? Like how'd you come
so
up with it? You just go week by week and say, I
yeah,
feel this way or,
went week by week, looking at the schedule, kind of compared to like what they did, what happened the week before, what happened, where they are in the schedule, like if it was a bye week, and I did it based on my instinct for the team and the schedule, whether I thought it was a hard schedule, an easy schedule, and kind of went through. So like I'd start with Arizona, and so I went through. Okay, that's a win, that's a loss, that's whatever, and then I'd go down to like whatever team it was. Like week one, Arizona's playing at Washington.
Okay.
So then I would say, okay, so I happen to have Arizona losing week one to Washington, so I would go down to Washington and say, okay, this is a win
Yeah. Yeah, I got you.
to make sure it lined up properly. And so I had the schedule grid, teams on the left, weeks on the top, and then in the middle was whether at or home
Yeah,
and
home or
whoever they
away.
were playing.
Yep.
And so, anyways, I'm going to start at the bottom of the AFC East, and this was a complete, complete surprise to me.
Sure.
I have the New York Jets at 5-12.
Really? Interesting.
In third place in the AFC East, I have the Patriots at 7-10.
Okay.
I have Miami at 10-7, and then Buffalo at 12-5.
Gotcha. Okay, so yeah, you think the Aaron Rodgers experiment is not going to pay off for the Jets.
Exactly.
Wow, okay. So I actually have this being one of the tougher divisions when I go through and do my schedule. And yeah, I guess so. I'll give you my background is that I put together sort of on the fly my model, which I do every year for all the games. It's tough kind of at this point of the year because like picking ratings on players, there's a lot of unknowns right now.
Hmm.
Like it helped to see some preseason or just get some news about what's going on with these teams and these players. But I did my best to just kind of like populate all the rookies, pick some ratings for them, progress some of the younger year two, year three guys, like decline some of the older guys, and coaching changes, all that kind of stuff. And then once my model was there, that gave me the win loss. I went back week by week, kind of like what you're talking about with the schedule grid, and I color coded, and then I like manually would override things that I thought were out of sorts. And so, like, an example is that my model was higher on Cleveland than I was. And so there were a handful of games where I basically hit the override button, and maybe not like crazy because some of the model, like the spreads were like razor thin, and so it was like, okay, at this point, you can go either way, and so that's kind of how I did it. With the AFC East, it had all the teams uh, over 10 wins, which I was surprised about, and so at the bottom, I had the Patriots and the Dolphins both tied at 10-7. Then I had the Jets at 11-6 and Buffalo winning the division at 13-4. And so we were pretty close on Buffalo. We were right on with Miami, but we were fairly far apart on the other two teams there. All right, so yeah, why don't you let's go to the AFC North, man. Tell me what you got going on there.
So with the AFC North, like I thought when I looked at it, I thought Cincinnati had a fairly easy schedule. Wise, like I mean, they play the NFC West, which is a joke currently, and and they play the AFC South, which is not that
Not the
good,
strongest. Yeah.
not the strongest either. So when I went through it, I ended up with Cincinnati at 14-3.
Nice.
I had Baltimore at 11-6. I had Cleveland at 11-6,
Okay.
and I had Pittsburgh. And I hate doing this because every year he's above 500. But
Yeah.
I think Pittsburgh's going to end up at 5-12 this year.
Really? Okay. Because, yeah, I remember last year my model had Pittsburgh low, and you were, more or less like pounding the table that they were going to get there, and they did. And and I was struggling with it, and this year it's the not the opposite, but it's different. Basically, this year my model had Pittsburgh at 11-6, and when I manually adjusted, I came out with 11-6, and so I stuck with that. The one that was off for me was Cleveland. My model had him at 12. When I went back and manually adjusted, I only had Cleveland at 8 and 9, and maybe some of that's just like some bias against Watson and just kind of how things went with them last year. And so if they win some games and he looks like the Houston version of Watson, then I probably feel more comfortable with it. But in a lot of those close games in my model, I was just like, I just don't trust the guy right now. And so I gave the edge the other way. But then in second place for the division, I've got Baltimore at 12-5. We were pretty close there. And
What
I've
did you
also
have?
got, what's
Oh,
that?
sorry. So you had Pittsburgh winning the division?
No, 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 no. I was just getting to Cincinnati. I had it 14-3, just like you.
Okay.
Yeah.
I was like,
But no,
you
I
did
had,
reverse order and then threw me off.
yeah, no, I had, and actually, I've got three of the four teams making the playoffs in this division, which I thought was unique. But I mean, I don't know if I'd say that's unique. We've had a division like that. It seems like every year in recent years because of the extra playoff spots. But yeah, I mean, hey, that's all right. All right, how
So
about
I
this
only have two. I only have two teams making the playoffs from
from
that
that
division:
division? Yeah.
Cincinnati and Baltimore. I think because I have a three-way tie at 11-6,
Okay.
and based on the tiebreakers, I it Cleveland misses out.
Gotcha. Okay. Well, all right. Yeah. How about the AFC South, man? What do you got there?
So in the AFC South, I have, and this is probably, let me take a look. Total wins wise, this is going to be my lowest division.
Yeah, I
I
was
only
just
have
thinking that.
I only have one team over 500, and that's Jacksonville at 9-8.
Okay.
Then I have Tennessee at 7-10 and Houston at 7-10. And I think a lot of this Houston at 7-10 is me kind of drinking the Kool-Aid with their draft and with the Miko
Yeah.
Ryans. So it's quite possible I could be overinflating them, but that's where I have them. And then Indianapolis, I have them at 4-13. While I like the fit of Richardson, I think it's going to take him a year or two to get up to speed in the NFL, and so
Yeah.
have them. Their 4 wins. I think. Let me take a look at it real quick. So I have them beating the Rams, the Saints, the Titans, and Atlanta.
Gotcha. Okay. Yeah. So I've got Indy at 2-15, and that was tough. Only having 2 wins is hard. But when I manually went back and looked at it, I was having a hard time pulling wins, and so I just left them there. I had Houston at 4-13. My model only had them at 2, and I was able to squeeze 2 extra as I looked through the schedule. I'm with you. I think that Demeco Ryans and just what they've done with that team, it's going to give them a boost. I'm just not sure how much. And then I've got Tennessee above them at 7-10, which it's painful putting them at 7-10, but that roster just gets shittier and shittier every year.
Mm-hmm.
And then I had Jacksonville at 12-5, which I thought was pretty strong. My model had them at 10-7, and when I manually adjusted, it gave them a couple extra games. And so, you know, I think that I maybe talked myself into Trevor Lawrence is the next big deal. Calvin Ridley's going to shake the rust off. Peterson and that team is just going in a different direction, and so I'm comfortable with that for now because obviously it's super early. Why the heck not? So, yeah, that's where I was at there. Last team in the AFC, man, or last division, we got the West.
All right. So I'm actually currently when I say this, I'm going to do the bottom two, which is Denver at 5-12, and then the Raiders at 11-6, and the
Okay.
Raiders beat out Cleveland for the playoffs. So then I really, really struggled with the Chargers and the Chiefs. Because every year I'm way too high on the Chargers and way
Yeah.
too low on the Chiefs. I ended up with Kansas City at 12-5
Okay.
and the Chargers at 13-4.
Damn,
Which
man.
this is my early prediction of the Week 18 flex to Sunday night. It's going to be the Chiefs-Chargers game.
Okay.
It's either going to be that game or there's going to be another one I'm going to mention in a little bit that could possibly be the other game.
Sure. I got you.
And when I mention it, you'll understand why.
All right. All right. So, yeah, I'll go top down on this one. So I've got the Chiefs at 14-3. Then I've got the Chargers and the Broncos tied at 9-8, and I've got the Raiders at 6-11. And my model only had the Raiders getting to 4 games, which I thought is just way too low. And um, I think especially with Jimmy Garoppolo there now, I think they'll do better than this. But when I manually adjusted, I only found the 2, and I didn't try very hard because I'm not a big McDaniels fan, and so either way I had him there. Denver, the model had him at 6, and when I manually adjusted, I got him to 9, and I think some of that was a little bit of the Sean Payton effect with me, where I'm
Mm-hmm.
just like, okay, this guy is going to get creative and suck some juice out of this team. And I didn't think 9 was outrageous, but it would be a big improvement from where they were at last year. Then with the Chargers, them at 9, so they finished last year at 10-7, and that was with a ton of injuries and just all sorts of shit going on. It was hard for me to regress them from that, but I think that this is kind of like my way of saying I'm not gonna freaking get hyped up on the Chargers like I have been the last couple of years, and they kind of got to earn it back a little bit with me if that makes any kind of sense.
Yeah, it does. And that's where I struggled with Denver because like with what I saw last year, like
Yeah, it
I
was so
they
bad.
have to show me
Yeah.
before I believe it.
And I put a lot of that on Hackett, but Russ didn't do anybody any favors either, and so there was a lot that went wrong there.
Mm-hmm.
All
Definitely.
right, moving over to the NFC. Let's start with East there, James.
All right, so I'm going to go bottom up on the NFC East.
Sure.
I have Washington at 2-15.
Gotcha.
I have them beating Arizona and the Rams.
Okay.
Then I have the Giants at 10-7. Then I have Dallas at 11-6.
Okay.
So the Giants and Philadelphia play Week 18 this year. Based on this is absolutely fucking nuts to me. Even though the record I have Philadelphia at, they still have to play all their players Week 18
Okay.
to get the number 1 seed. So that's the other option. But I have
Sure.
Philadelphia at 17-0.
Undefeated. So you're saying there will not be a Super Bowl hangover for them?
No.
Okay. It's aggressive. It's aggressive, but I like it. I like Hurts. I like Sirianni. I, you know, when I think about Sirianni in his first year and just those press conferences and how crazy the guy was, the way he talked, he's won me over big time.
Hmm.
All right, so I've got Philly winning the division at 13-4. Then I got Dallas at 11-6, the Giants at 7-10, and Washington at 3-14. Which my model had Washington at 4 wins, which, last year, James, my model was crazy about Washington. It had them at like 12 wins, and you thought that it was just messed up. And obviously it was messed up because they sucked. But um, yeah, this year maybe a little more appropriate. Sam Howell, kind of hard to put a lot of weight into that right now. I think my model could change if they went to Brissett, and so maybe they go a few games and it's just not working and they pull the plug. But when I went and manually looked at the schedule, it still seemed like even with Brissett, if they pulled the plug, there could be a tough slate of games that Brissett's going to be walking into, and at that point the season could just be a wash. So.
Hmm.
Um, yeah, and then with the Giants, I had them coming back just a little bit, um, and that's tough. It's my model doesn't have a very high rating of Daniel Jones, and so I know last year they got a lot out of him on the ground, and I just wonder can they replicate that success with him? And so if they can't, that's where it kind of comes back to reality. Um, but yeah, all right, let's I don't know. What do you want to do? You want to save the North for last since it's Lions, or do you want to just go at it right now?
Save the North for last.
All right,
Let's
we'll
let's
save
go
the
to the
North.
South.
The dirty South.
So I have actually two playoff teams coming from the NFC South,
Nice.
which is crazy. I mean, I had three from the NFC North or East, NFC East. Um, I have two coming from the South, which is Atlanta and Carolina.
Okay.
Um, Atlanta, I have at 10-7, winning the division. Carolina, I have at 9-8,
Okay.
which
You think there's going to be some instant impact?
I I really I'm really high on Arthur Smith, and I liked I like I just something. It also has to do with their division too with
Yeah.
Atlanta,
Yeah.
because it's like their division is kind of crappy.
It's up
Their
for the taking.
their schedule is fairly easy where they play the NFC or AFC South and the NFC North. So
Yeah.
I it just kind of lines up for them to have a good, and it was like home and away, like
Right in their
like they're
favor.
right in their favor with it seems like to me.
So what about Carolina though? You think basically right off the bat they're going to hit with the rookie quarterback and it's going to work.
So I think a lot of the problem with Carolina last year was Matt Rule at the beginning of the
Okay.
season, and once they got rid of Matt Rule, you saw that team on the
Yeah, they were
incline.
running the ball well. Yeah, it changed quite a bit. They were leaning on the defense in the running game.
Yeah, and they were doing things right, and they were playing a lot better, and they won a lot of games, even a lot of games that were surprise wins. So I think I think the coaching makes the difference there.
Okay,
And at and third in division, I have New Orleans at 8-9,
gotcha.
and I have Tampa Bay at 4-13.
Okay. Yeah, so I mean we're
And
close
with
with
Tampa
exception to
Bay,
Carolina here. But yeah, yeah, go ahead.
with Tampa Bay, I have them beating Houston, Tennessee, Indy, and Green Bay.
Gotcha. Yeah, I could only put Tampa Bay at 5-12. And so my model had them at 8-9, and I thought, no, you got Baker Mayfield at quarterback. They lost a lot of guys in that secondary. I just And honestly, I like Todd Bowles as a defensive coordinator. I think he's one of the best. I just don't like him as a head coach, James. And so I dialed them down. But I'm with you with Atlanta. I got them winning the division. I've got them at 9-8. After that, I've got the Saints at 8-9. Then Tampa Bay 5-12, which I mentioned, and I've got Carolina at the bottom at 4-13. And that's just because I think Bryce Young, it's just going to be some rookie struggles. Plus, you got a new coaching staff. They're not really in a hurry to turn it around, and so I think that they could slow and steady work on it and afford to lose some games this year. Um, but it would be nice to see them do better than that because obviously, you know me, I like Frank Reich and that
Hmm.
whole crew. So, okay, NFC West.
All right. So I'm gonna at the bottom of the NFC West, I have Arizona and the Rams. I have the Rams in fourth and Arizona in third, both with 4-13 records.
Okay,
So with Arizona, I have them beating Atlanta, Houston, Chicago, and Seattle.
gotcha.
And kind of the reason why I have them beating Seattle is because it just doesn't matter for Seattle at that point. Because I have Seattle taking a step back this year.
Okay,
For the Rams, I have them beating Arizona. Actually, I have it wrong. I have Arizona in fourth and the Rams in third because I have them beating Arizona twice, Seattle and Pittsburgh.
okay,
So I just flip those when I put it in
that's fine.
inadvertently. And then in second place in the division, I have Seattle at 7-10.
Okay, yeah. So they were 9-8 last year. You think they're gonna slide back 2 games?
Yeah, I think a couple of their wins last year were flukish, and I think their schedule is slightly harder
Well, and
this
now
year.
teams kind of know more what to expect out of Geno Smith.
Mhm. Yeah, because they play the AFC North and the NFC East.
Okay,
So I think that's more difficult
those are
than
both tough. Yeah.
yeah, those are both tough divisions to face. And this one, San Francisco, I have them winning, and this is crazy to me because in week 13, San Francisco plays at Philadelphia.
Revenge game.
I think the winner of that game will go 17-0.
Okay.
I have Philadelphia winning that game. So I have San Francisco at 16-1.
Oh, well, I was wondering, are you going to say they lose there and then it just like totally derails them from there? But nope, you're just saying it'll be a blip on the radar and they win out.
Yeah, because their schedule after that, like besides Baltimore, is fairly easy. Like they could easily lose that Baltimore game, but they play Seattle at Arizona, Baltimore at home, at Washington, the Rams at home.
Okay.
So I think that if they had like Cleveland and Cincinnati after that game, or um, I might have
Reconsider.
them
Yeah.
might reconsider it, but it's kind of like it's the worst teams, with the exception, the worst or of the worst teams. It's two worst teams in their divisions they have left. They have, I mean, Seattle, who I think they will beat easily, and like they only have one hard game that I see because
Okay.
that Seattle game's at home. And it's interesting because Philadelphia is sandwiched between their two Seattle games.
Oh, gotcha. Okay. All right. Well, yeah. So I have the 49ers winning at 12-5, and I had them losing a couple games earlier on just because of the sort of like cloudiness of the quarterback situation. But then basically they pick up steam and just go rolling. After that, I've got Seattle at 10-7. I thought they improved, but not a ton, and so they go from 9-8 last year to 10-7 in my model. Um, actually, actually, I want to point this out. My model actually has Seattle at 5-12, and when I manually did it, I got them at 10, which was that was probably the biggest difference between where I manually reconfigured and what the model had. Then the Rams, I got them at 4-13, which yeah, it looks like you had them at 4-13 as well. That was tough, man. Like when I look through their roster, I know guys are going to come out of nowhere and be better than advertised. But like if you look at if you look at the lineups ratings on their players right now, they have so many guys at 67, which is the bare minimum rating. It is just weird to see it from the Rams team. And then at the bottom, I've got Arizona at 2-15. My model actually had Arizona going 0-17, and I found 2 wins in there that I squeezed in for them. It does look like Arizona is just going to try and go 0-17, but the reality is that these teams usually sneak a couple wins somewhere, and so when I manually did it, I found a couple that were close enough to give them the benefit of the doubt. So. All right, so yeah, I mean that's kind of. Oh wait, we got the North still. Holy cow, I don't want to forget about the North. I almost
Yeah.
jumped to the playoffs, James.
All
All
right.
right, give me the North, man.
So in the bottom of the North, I have Green Bay at 3-14. I have Green Bay winning a Chicago game, a Minnesota game, and a Rams game.
Okay.
In the
Yeah,
Rams game.
everybody's beating the Rams this year, basically.
Yeah. Well, I have the Rams winning 4 games, but so I have the Rams winning one more than Green Bay because I have Green Bay at 3-14.
Yep.
Then I have Chicago at 5-12.
Okay.
So I have them beating Tampa Bay, Denver, Washington, New Orleans, and then one of the Green Bay games.
Okay.
Then I have a huge step back, which is Minnesota. I have Minnesota at 8-9.
Gotcha. Yeah, that 13-4 last year. God, man, it was such a fluke. At least it looked that way. Maybe they'll tear it off again this year, but I'm not seeing how it's going to happen that way.
Yeah. And then I have one of Minnesota's wins is also the last week of the season against Detroit because I have Detroit resting their players going into the playoffs because I have their positioning tied up, locked in at 11-6 and the third seed in the NFC.
Nice. Okay. Well, I would love that result, James. I also have the Lions at 11-6, and I have the Vikings at 8-9. I've got Green Bay and Chicago tied at the bottom at 6-11, and so yeah, Chicago in mine, they're going from 3-14 to 6-11. Green Bay stepping back a little bit. I don't have Green Bay stepping back more than that, just because I still have faith that they can get the run game going, and that can help carry them.
Yeah, they
But
need to find a quarterback though.
yeah, but
Jordan Love can't throw a forward pass.
well, yeah. I mean, if Love can't do it, then it's going to be a disaster. But yeah, I mean, my model says, hey, they can have success running. They have guys on defense, and that counts for something. But it all depends, man. LaFleur, it was real bad last year, so I don't know. But okay, yeah. So that's our picks for the regular season. Are you ready to go through and do our playoff brackets, James?
I am. I am. I'm smoking crack on our playoff brackets, but I'm just gonna go with it.
Sure. You're having some fun with it, is what you're telling me.
Yeah,
Okay.
because yeah, having some fun with it.
All right. So yeah, why don't you walk me through the AFC side of it first?
All right, so my playoff teams from the AFC are, and this is order 1 through 7 seed: Cincinnati, the Chargers, Buffalo, Jacksonville, Kansas City, Baltimore, and Vegas.
Okay.
So that puts Vegas at the Chargers first round. I have the Chargers winning that game.
Gotcha.
Baltimore at Buffalo, and I have Buffalo winning that game.
Okay.
And then that leaves Kansas City at Jacksonville. And I think if the game last year with Kansas City and Jacksonville was in Jacksonville, I think Jacksonville would have won it. This year, I have it in Jacksonville, so I have Jacksonville winning it.
Gotcha. That'd be a huge upset, but okay. And so yeah, then for the divisional round,
Then that gives Jacksonville at Cincinnati and Buffalo at the Chargers. So this was kind of difficult for me. Jacksonville, Cincinnati. I mean, I think it's obvious Cincinnati.
okay.
Buffalo and the Chargers. This one was a little difficult for me. A little difficult for me because I like the Chargers, but I think that the Chargers always end up choking in the playoffs.
Gotcha.
And so I'm going with Buffalo over the Chargers in a close game.
Okay. So
And I'm
then yeah,
sorry,
for
yeah, that would be
AFC Conference
Buffalo.
Championship, yep.
So conference championship, Buffalo at Cincinnati, which is the game that everyone wanted to see last year. I have.
I mean, Buffalo choked in the snow against Cincinnati, and I thought that game would have been the opposite, and I don't know that it still blows my mind how bad Buffalo was in that game.
I have Cincinnati winning
Okay.
that game. I just I just think Cincinnati showed something
They
last year.
find way they find ways to win, man. They find ways to
Exactly.
win.
I think in that regular season game, Cincinnati was before the tragic events. Cincinnati was well on its way to winning the regular season game. I think they're a better team as they're constructed right now. So that gives Cincinnati as the AFC champs.
Okay. All right, walk me through. Well, here I'll walk you through my AFC. So you've got Cincinnati in the Super Bowl. So I've got Kansas City at 1, Cincinnati at 2, Buffalo 3, Jacksonville 4, Baltimore 5, the Jets at 6, and Pittsburgh at 7 was how, and I had to do just like you did. I had to do a number of tiebreakers to figure out
Mhm.
who got in with some of these teams, and it was cool that it worked out that way. It was obviously this is all make believe, but fun to go through the exercise. So I had Cincinnati playing Pittsburgh, and Cincinnati advanced. I had Buffalo playing the Jets, Buffalo advanced, and then I had Jacksonville playing Baltimore with Baltimore advancing. And I thought that if Jacksonville played one of these other teams, maybe I would have felt better about them advancing, but I just didn't like that matchup against Baltimore. And so going to the divisional round, that gave me Kansas City against Baltimore and Cincinnati against Buffalo. I had Kansas City and Buffalo advancing there. This is, kind of like that's where I was asking you with your Buffalo Cincinnati game. I got it just around earlier. And I felt like this is going to be the time Buffalo actually gets back on that because that was just, I don't know, a strange game for me. They played such different football all year, and then that game just didn't look like them. And so I got them winning here. And then and I do have some concerns with Cincinnati in their defensive secondary with some of the changes there. I mean, they lost two of their three safeties, and but it is what it is. So conference championship, I've got Kansas City and Buffalo, which is actually what I believe I had in my picks last year, and it didn't play out that way in real life, obviously. But this time around, I've got Buffalo advancing, and so I've got Buffalo in the Super Bowl on my side of the AFC. Walk me through your NFC now.
All right. So, seed wise, from 1 to 7, I have Philadelphia, San Francisco, Detroit, Atlanta, Dallas, the Giants, and Carolina.
Jeez, we're so close except for 6 and 7. But go ahead, yeah, keep going.
So that gives Carolina at San Francisco. That's not even a matchup. San Francisco wins that game. Then that would give. Oh, I have an error there. Do I? No. Giants at Detroit. I think this is kind of where the Danny Dimes fumble issues start to rear their ugly head again.
Okay.
And so I have Detroit beating the Giants. And then Dallas at Atlanta. I think this is the end of the road for Atlanta. And yeah, they win their division, great for them, but they lose to Dallas in the first round of the playoffs.
Yeah, it'd be tough.
So that gives me Dallas, a 5 seed, 1, 2, 3, and 5. So that's Dallas at Philadelphia. And I went back and forth on this game.
Sure.
While I think Philadelphia is going to win the 2 regular season games against Dallas, it is incredibly hard to win 3 games in a year against a team. And I have Dallas winning that.
Gotcha.
Then it's Detroit at San Francisco.
Okay.
And this one I'm just smoking crack on. I have Detroit winning that game.
So yeah, one for fun. Yeah. I got you.
But that one for fun snowballs.
Okay. All right.
Because then I have Dallas at Detroit for the NFC Championship game.
Gotcha.
And I had it as a very close game at Dallas. Flipping it to Detroit, I have Detroit winning it.
Okay. So you've got Detroit and Cincinnati in the Super Bowl.
A Michigan-Ohio Super Bowl.
A Michigan-Ohio Super Bowl. All right. Well, save your Super Bowl pick. I'll walk you through my NFC and then we'll get there. So yeah, I mean we were identical until 6 and 7. So I've got Philly, San Fran, Detroit, Atlanta, Dallas. Then I've got Seattle at 6 and Minnesota at 7. And Minnesota snuck in. They snuck in because I had them at whatever 9 and 8 or something. But so the first matchup is San Fran against Minnesota. I've got San Fran winning that. Then I've got Detroit and Seattle. I've got Detroit winning that, which is like also a revenge game on, Detroit lost that Seattle game last year, which would have got them into the playoffs if you looked ahead. But then I've got Atlanta and Dallas. I'm with you. I got Dallas beating them. I just think that the Dallas defense is going to be too stout for Atlanta. In the divisional round, that gives me Philly against Dallas. I've got Philly winning, which is opposite of you. Then I've got San Francisco against Detroit, with San Francisco winning. Then we go to the conference championship. I've got Philly against San Francisco, and I've got the 49ers advancing. And so I've got Buffalo against San Francisco in my Super Bowl matchup. You've got Cincinnati and Detroit. And so that takes us to the question of the week as we finish this off. Who do you think's going to win that big game, buddy?
So I want to look something up before, because I'm trying to remember. I want to look something up based on your prediction. I think if I'm remembering, let me just look something up
Sure. Yeah,
really
take your time.
quick.
Yeah.
All right, so. If I remember correctly, it was Dallas, Giants. Oh no, it was Dallas.
Okay.
Two of them were, yeah, because Dallas did back to back, and then Redskins. Oh no, okay. So San Francisco won it the year before. So I thought you were having a matchup of Buffalo's first Super Bowl, which wasn't that the wide right Super Bowl?
Oh, geez, man, I don't even remember. I just remember Buffalo. They went four times and lost all four, man.
Yeah, I believe that was the wide right Super Bowl.
Okay. God, could
So
you just imagine how if you were one of the guys that was on all four of those teams, and which I don't know how many of the guys were on all four, but like that would, I mean, it would just be so hard to accept that, you know? They you got there four times and you didn't get one of them. Oh my
yes,
gosh, I don't know. I mean,
that was the Norwood wide right Super Bowl, and I was like, wasn't that against? I was thinking it was against San Francisco, but that was the year before that
okay,
San Francisco won the Super Bowl. In fact, San Francisco lost to the Giants by 2 points in the championship game.
gotcha.
But anyways, okay. So I thought you picked a rematch of that Super Bowl, which would be a great Super Bowl, like
Oh
a
yeah.
rematch of the wide right.
Yeah, I
But
didn't even think of that, but yeah, no, it'd be like a classic, you'd get all that stuff coming back.
so
All right, so yeah, give me your Cincy Detroit Super Bowl. Is it going to be what we want it to be, James?
so here's the thing about this.
It's all for pretend and make believe, I know.
No, here's the thing about this. I I am really, really high on the Lions coming this year, which scares the living fuck out of me.
Yeah, I'm with you.
Um, really, really high on them. And everybody nationwide is really, really fucking high on them, which
Yeah,
scares the living fuck out
it's
of me.
pretty wild. Yep, it's pretty wild.
When it boils down to it, if I'm picking this Super Bowl, there's only one winner I'm allowed to pick. No
Okay.
matter what. No matter what. No matter who it's against.
Yeah.
If I'm
Yeah,
picking this team
you just can't
to
go
make it to the
against them.
Super Bowl, I can't go against them.
Okay.
So it's the Lions.
So you drank that whole bottle of Kool-Aid.
I drank
It,
that whole bottle of Kool-Aid, smoked that entire joint, and
yeah, I was gonna say somebody spiked your Kool-Aid, but yeah.
whatever other decorations that you want to have.
No, that's
I'm
cool, man. It's cool. I mean, it's good to support them and to get behind them. And in mine, with them winning the that wild card weekend game, I felt good. I felt like, okay, hey, you lose divisional round. I still think that that's a huge win for Detroit if they could do that. Um, Obviously, if they went all the way, I'd go streaking, dude. You'd see me on the news or something. I don't know, but it'd be crazy. It'd be like, unbelievable. Hopefully, I wouldn't like get arrested streaking, but I'd go do something pretty wild, I'm sure.
Well,
Yeah, so mine is not as exciting then. So I've got Buffalo and San Fran, and in this matchup, I give it to San Fran. And so this kind of goes back to where I was telling you the week by week in the schedule. Earlier in the year, I had them sorting out that quarterback situation as Purdy gets back and all that kind of stuff. And then they just go on a tear, and it never stops. And playoffs hit, and it's like they basically get back what they lost last year. So they get their win over Philly in the championship game, and they go all the way. They beat Buffalo in the Super Bowl. It's like a Shanahan dream come true. He gets that freaking monkey off his back, so to speak, whatever else. And Josh Allen will have to keep fighting another year, man.
also, I'm gonna say something.
Yes.
If my Super Bowl or any derivation with that NFC Championship happens, we're gonna be in Vegas in February.
Oh, so that's where the Super Bowl's at next year?
Yeah,
I mean, if they get in, yeah. I mean, I'll sell my car to get a ticket if I have to. Uh,
yeah.
and yeah, I mean, Vegas, it just makes it even more fun. Let's just go. We'll stay there for a freaking week, dude.
I'm down.
Yeah. I mean, we'll need to stay for a week after because that's where the real party's going to be if they win. So, yeah, no, let's make a note of it right now. You and me in Vegas, and whoever else wants to join us. But who knows if or when it would ever happen again, James? We would have to go all in on it, man.
Exactly. Exactly. And I've already talked to the wife. I said if the Lions ever make the Super Bowl, I'm come hell or high water, I'm going to be at the game. And she said I understand.
It's good you have that support, man. It's good. So, and just keep reminding her occasionally in case it does pop up. You want to have those seeds planted along the way.
Yeah, and that's the one that's missing from the four major sports. I've been to World Series games. I've been to NBA final games. I've been to
Stanley
Stanley
Cup.
Cup final games. I have not been to the Super Bowl.
Oh man, I didn't know that about the other ones. That's pretty cool, dude. You've had some experiences.
Yeah, unfortunately, it wasn't a Red Wings Stanley Cup final game, but
Eh, you'll take
it
it though.
was it was a couple years ago. Like, was that 2012 when the Kings were in the cup? And in fact, I went to Game 4 and the Kings were up 3-0 at the
Okay.
time, and I was at Game 4, which the Kings lost, so I didn't get to see the cup presented,
Uh,
but it was delayed. But I was there, and there was a chance.
gotcha, gotcha. Well, that's cool. All right. Well, yeah. So, I mean, for tonight, man, I guess just like we always do, asking everybody out there, make sure you play Name That Stadium. Give us your Super Bowl prediction. It's like crazy early, but it's fun to dream and think about what could be. And of course, 100 people are going to get hurt and all sorts of shit's going to change, but it's cool. Anything football's cool. So, um, and then we got to come up with a topic for next week, man. So I haven't really thought about it. I'll have to go back and look at, or did we already have one? I see you looking like maybe I forgot about something.
Uh, I'm. I was just thinking. I don't know if we had. Where were we? I don't know. Like, it might have
Yeah.
been something
Well,
with fantasy football. I
okay.
don't
Yeah, we'll
remember.
go back. We'll see what we did last year, and maybe we'll do a retread of something. If not, we'll talk. We got some time to come up with a topic.
Yeah, we'll figure it out.
Oh yeah. All right. Well, hey, we hope you guys liked the show tonight. If you did, hit that thumbs up or the like or whatever platform you're on, and please, please, please get over to YouTube and subscribe to the channel. James, any closing thoughts, man?
No, I don't think so.
All righty. It was fun, man. I'll catch you later.
All right, sounds good. Have a good one.
Gridiron Grinder. Hut, hut, hike.